What's up everyone and welcome back to the UFC News Hub. Today let's get started with Gaethje gets new opponent at UFC 313. Justin Gaethje's opponent for UFC 313 has officially been revealed, and the co-main event has been saved in the most epic way possible, with a much anticipated rematch that fight fans have been craving. Originally scheduled to face Dan Hooker, Gaethje was left without a dance partner after Hooker fractured his hand and had to withdraw from the fight. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon so you never miss an update. In classic UFC fashion, the scramble to find a replacement was fast and furious, and within days, the promotion delivered something that arguably might be even better than the original matchup. This is the unpredictable beauty of mixed martial arts. Injuries happen, fighters step up, and sometimes we end up with a fight even more exciting than the one we lost. Dan Hooker's unfortunate injury opened the door for a rematch between Justin Gaethje and Rafael Fiziev, a pairing that instantly electrified the MMA world. For those who remember their first war at UFC 286 in London, this was the fight of the night. A brutal back-and-forth battle that left both men battered, bloodied, and walking away with a $50,000 bonus each. Gaethje got his hand raised that night, but it was the type of fight where nobody truly loses. Fans couldn't get enough, and the idea of running it back felt like destiny. Since that night in London, both fighters have taken very different paths. Gaethje capitalized on his momentum, earning himself a coveted BMF title fight against Dustin Poirier, a fight he won in spectacular fashion. But just when it seemed like Gaethje was back on top, he ran into the force of nature that is Max Holloway at UFC 300. In one of the most jaw-dropping knockouts the sport has ever seen, Holloway put Gaethje away in the dying seconds of the fight, leaving fans speechless and Gaethje hungry for redemption. Now, with UFC 313 around the corner, Gaethje finds himself at a career crossroads. At 35 years old, his window for a title run is narrowing, and with Islam Makhachev reigning atop the division, Gaethje knows that every fight from here on out is crucial. Interestingly, Gaethje remains one of the few top lightweights who has never faced Makhachev, and if he can pull off an emphatic win over Fiziev, that fact becomes harder and harder for the UFC to ignore. On the other side of this rematch stands Rafael Fiziev, a man equally hungry to rewrite his story. Fiziev was riding a scorching 6-fight winning streak before his first clash with Gaethje, a streak that showcased his elite kickboxing, lightning-fast combinations, and ruthless finishing ability. But Gaethje's relentless pressure and iron chin halted Fiziev's rise, handing him his first UFC loss in years. Determined to bounce back, Fiziev returned quickly to face Mateusz Gamrot, but disaster struck again. A freak leg injury forced Fiziev to withdraw mid-fight. After months of rehab, Fiziev is finally healthy, and when Dan Hooker dropped out, Fiziev jumped at the chance to step in, eager to settle unfinished business with Gaethje. When the UFC finalized the matchup, Dana White wasted no time making it official for the fans. Dana White said,
"The new co-main event for March 8th, UFC 313 here in Las Vegas, is going to be Gaethje versus Fiziev. Gaethje, I don't know how much I got to sell Gaethje to you. 13 performance bonuses in 13 fights. 20 of his 25 wins are by knockout. And Fiziev, in his last fight, was cut short due to an unfortunate knee injury. But prior to that, Fiziev had 6 straight performance bonuses, including the first time they fought, which was another badass fight. So the co-main event, Fiziev versus Gaethje, we fixed it. That's a fun one.
For the die-hard fight fans, this rematch is everything we love about MMA: chaos versus technique, raw power against polished precision, all wrapped up in a fight where both men have something to prove and absolutely nothing to lose. Gaethje will walk forward like a wrecking ball, throwing bombs and absorbing punishment like only he can. Fiziev will answer with his signature slick combinations and brutal body kicks, determined to show that the first fight was just a bump in the road. This is the type of fight that turns casual fans into lifelong followers of the sport, a guaranteed fireworks show that could very well steal the entire UFC 313 card. And if that wasn't enough, Dana White also threw in one more bonus announcement during the reveal. Dana White said, also added to UFC 314, Gene Silva versus Bryce Mitchell, said Dana White. With all this action lined up, it's clear the UFC isn't slowing down anytime soon. Whether you're a hard hardcore fan who remembers every detail of Gaethje Fiziev 1, or a newer viewer who's about to witness their brilliance for the first time, one thing's certain: UFC 313 just became must-watch television. Arman Tsarukyan and Dan Hooker are talking trash to each other. Arman Tsarukyan responded to a fan telling him to step in on short notice to fight Justin Gaethje. The fan said Arman would win, and Arman replied, "I would." After that, Arman went after Dan Hooker for pulling out of his fight. Arman tweeted, "Karma doesn't miss, big mouth. Glass hands. Maybe just stick to talking instead of fighting." Dan Hooker didn't stay quiet. He fired back with, "If only your dad pulled out faster than your last fight. Glass hands. Haha, glass house." The two fighters are now trading insults online, and it's clear they have a serious problem with each other. Blachowicz predicts Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev. Blachowicz has given his prediction for the upcoming light heavyweight title fight between Alex Pereira and Magomed Ankalaev, and it's clear this fight has captured the attention of the entire division. Next weekend, Alex Pereira will step into the octagon to defend his light heavyweight belt for the 4th time. Standing across from him will be Magomed Ankalaev, a fighter many believe could be Pereira's toughest challenge yet at 205 pounds. For Blachowicz, this fight holds extra significance. If Blachowicz can get past Carlos Ulberg in his own upcoming fight, it could put him right back into title contention, setting up a potential rematch with Pereira. That's why Blachowicz has been watching Pereira closely, and during a recent appearance on Michael Bisping and Paul Felder's Believe You Me podcast, he shared his thoughts on how this clash might play out. Blachowicz said, "We will see. I don't know. It's 50-50, but with a little bit on Pereira's side. If Ankalaev fights like he did against Rakic, he's going to lose. He needs to do something more. He needs to use his wrestling skills to make Pereira tired, tire his hands, and then he can start fighting on the feet. If Ankalaev fights like a kickboxer and only stands up with Pereira, he's going to lose the fight. If he uses his wrestling skills, he's going to do nothing to Pereira." Blachowicz knows better than most what it's like to face Pereira inside the octagon. After all, the two went to war in 2023, a fight that saw Pereira narrowly edge out a decision victory over the Polish powerhouse. Despite undergoing double shoulder surgery after that fight, Blachowicz has been grinding his way back, determined to get another crack at the belt. For him, Pereira is the man standing between him and redemption, which makes this upcoming fight between Pereira and Ankalaev all the more personal. Blachowicz's prediction highlights the high-stakes chess match this fight could become. On one side, you have Pereira, the elite striker with his terrifying power and pinpoint precision. On the other, Ankalaev, a well-rounded fighter who has the grappling chops to potentially neutralize Pereira's striking, but who at times falls too in love with his own stand-up. According to Blachowicz, that could be a fatal mistake. Pereira's striking isn't just dangerous, it's world-class. It's the kind of striking that puts opponents to sleep with a single shot. If Ankalaev decides to stand and trade with Pereira, he could end up becoming just another highlight in Pereira's reel of knockouts. At the same time, Blachowicz knows firsthand how hard Pereira is to handle, even when grappling comes into play. When they fought, Blachowicz found success with his wrestling early on, but Pereira's toughness, conditioning, and fight IQ allowed him to adapt and turn the tide. That experience gives Blachowicz a unique perspective when breaking down this fight, because he understands exactly how dangerous Pereira is, not just as a striker, but as a complete fighter who is evolving with every performance. With Blachowicz's own career hanging in the balance as he prepares for Carlos Ulberg, his prediction for Pereira versus Ankalaev comes not just from analysis, but from personal experience, and the knowledge that his own path to gold could soon run through one of these two men. Whether it's Pereira's power or Ankalaev's wrestling that defines this fight, one thing is certain: the light heavyweight division is heating up, and Jan Blachowicz plans to be right in the middle of it all.